Hello there, Internet. I'm so pleased to be here with you for a content that is not very common on YouTube. You know, history of art, iconography, understanding images together. This is why you're watching an inaugural episode of a project called The Eye and the Shield. It is dedicated to my will to explain to others the meaning of pictures, and I'm up to do that thanks to my researches in history of art, researches that are applied to monumental heritage. You know, I have a deep passion for iconography and a specialization in stained glass windows. So I really want to promote it, and at the same time, make you realize how captivating such things can be. My name is François-Rémy Roqueton. I'm a PhD student at the École pratique des hautes études. It's a school in Paris. What I want to do now is sharing a very interesting case of my subject, dealing with coat of arms in the stained glass windows of churches. Our practical case is about a monument that I'm used to tour in my hometown. So, be welcome in Saint-André's Cathedral of Bordeaux, in France, obviously, and I'm going to tour for you windows of interest, a series of characters and scenes that tourists shoot all year long, without understanding a single % of what they see. For you, I want to offer you a complete description of these depictions right now. So let's discover together one part of the decoration. It is somewhere in the sanctuary, in a chapel facing north, in a chapel called Notre-Dame du Mont Carmel. Right, we're on site now thanks to Google Maps Street View. I just want you to locate where it is in order to better understand and recognize it if you go to watch it by yourself one day. Here is the entrance, and on the left you encounter a chapel whose stained glass stories won't hold any secrets for you anymore. Alright, here we go. The panels you're seeing right now, they're from the 19th century, 1857 precisely, in a neo-Gothical style. They were realized by Joseph Villiet, a local artist and glassmaker painter. The program is dedicated to the history of the Virgin Mary. It is due to the generosity of powerful benefactors. Most of them are from the parish council. It is an organ composed by the priest and the richest and most powerful parishioners that were used to be donors. This is why emblems top each lancet in order to show who paid what. The first characters on the left are patriarchs from the Ancient Testament, and as we move to the right, figures of the New Testament appear, like a chronological progression, from the left to the right. The presence of such patriarchs is justified by the fact that they are ancestors of Mary. What are their attributes? They hold scrolls, right? It's on purpose, in order to show that they own only a part of the Holy Truth, only a fragment. We quite never see them with books that are closed things. A book is more like an handed purpose, whereas the parchment is a fragment of something, a fragment of truth, very symbolical to the fact that these prophets heard God, but quite indistinctly, as prophets of their time. I mean, before the advent of Christ, they were inspired by God, but indirectly and not entirely. Later on, Contrast to that, here, characters of the New Testament appear. They hold closed books as a mark of being imbued by the whole Holy Truth. The absence of halo for the ancient Testament prophets is also a sign of preceding the whole Holy Truth. It is here a process to delimitate two ranges of characters. Otherwise, you can absolutely find, in general iconography, Old Testament heroes with halos. But here, it's not the case. In the first lancet, we see Abram, the scene of the birth of Mary. Abraham again in a medallion, and above, arms of the family Pichon-Longueville, a well-known family based in the surroundings of Bordeaux. I recommend you to visit the magnificent chateau for its impressiveness and for wine tasting. In the second lancet, arms of the family de Pontac. Here is an example of what we call in heraldry canting arms. Canting arms? What is this? This is a representation of the bearer's name in the crest itself. And indeed, the bridge means pont in French. Pontac sounds like bridge. Here is the presentation of the Virgin Mary into the temple. Here, Isaac, son of Abraham. Next to it, the lancet of Jacob, the marriage of Mary and Joseph, and prophet Jeremias into medallion, and the arms of a family that I worship the history. They're named de Gratteloup. The crest is composed by two parts halved vertically. It's another canting arm. Here a rebus that all invites us to smile, because gratte in French equals to scratch, and loup stands for wolf. We know that this couple lived in the street next door to the cathedral, and the man, Jean-Pierre Sylvestre de Gratteloup, who is a very well-known doctor, a very well-known erudite in almost all natural sciences, and his wife, Emma Carré de Saint-Gemme. The next lancet, Judah. Even if he wears a yellow cloak, it is not Judas Iscariot, but the ancient Testament prophet of the same name, but without an S. Here, the adoration of the shepherds. Arms of a man, Jules de Pinot, canting arms again, because Pinot sounds like pin, it's pine tree. Pay attention to canting arms. They're so numerous in heraldry. Arms of another family, de la Mirmorie. Here, the scene of the adoration of the Magi. King David, how can we not recognize him? With his harp and his crown. He is the author of some of the Psalms in the Bible. Solomon, I suggest it is inspired by the famous Solomon's Judgment by the great painter Nicolas Poussin. Look, I shot this close-up at the Louvre, and I figured out a resemblance, maybe to some kind of over-interpretation, but as the faces connect, we may think, I personally believe that our artist, José Villiet, I think that he had Poussin's work of art in mind when he had to draw this character. But look, since the start, we have prophets with so long beards, and now we're facing a glabrous Solomon. It is an iconographical custom in order to show that he accessed the throne at a young age and had precocious wisdom. After that, the presentation of Jesus at the temple. Arms. I'm reading these arms for you. Azure, a cross between 4 roses, all or. These are the arms of the family Lacroix de Ravignan. Here, coat of arms of a family, la famille de Noaillan. The scene of the infant Christ held by Simeon the God Receiver and prophetess Hannah. Here you sing Elijah, prophet and miracle worker, wearing not a coat of arms, a coat of camel's hair. The Impr cataffoil contains the arms of the canonical chapter of the cathedral. The Santa Cross, maybe you guessed it, it is relevant to Saint-André's martyr. He's said to have told his executioners that he was not worthy to be crucified on the same cross style as Christ. But you can find another type of Saint-André cross, the one with a longer arm, so it can be stuck in the ground. This type is mostly present in the iconographic tradition that lasts until the 14th century. Later on, the X-shaped cross remains. Right, here is Prophet Ezekiel, followed by the wedding at Cana, and a crest that is probably not a mere proper coat of arms, but thanks to Cardinal DONNET, thanks to a letter from his hand to the artist and window-maker Joseph Villiet, a letter that he wrote in 1857. We don't know what means this saltire cross and Latin inscription, Pastor et Oves. It's because the donors of this panel were the cathedral's archpriest, le Père du Double, Father du Double, followed by some parishioners. So, literally, the shepherd and his flock, in Latin, Pastor et Oves. Here, initials of the donor, a sir whose name is Maubourguet Maisonneuve. Here, Christ carrying the cross, Isaias, Jeremias, and descent from the cross. A crest holding initials of François Samazeuil, a man who created an eponymous bank in Bordeaux. And the former Hôtel Samazeuil is actually Louis Vuitton's shop in one of the finest streets you can encounter in Bordeaux, Le Cours de l'Intendance. Now comes a series of characters with halos, and among them, John the Baptist. And here, Lamentation of Christ. Here, initials of Jean-Jacques Pomez. The little cross pate below means that he was awarded with the Legion of Honor, the highest French Order of Merit. That was the same for François Samazeuil that we previously seen the case. In 2 cataphols, we see the arms of the town. It testifies a donation from its part. Here come the grandparents of Christ, Joachim and Hannah. Here the death of Virgin Mary. Arms of family de Brivazac, a fountain springing from a heart, and just overhear a funeral procession of the Virgin Mary again. Oh, here, yeah. Arms of a very interesting person, Mademoiselle Hermine de Bellot, a person who has been miraculously cured in 1830 when she was just 18. She suffered then tuberculosis, and according to the doctors, she was condemned. But at the end of a novena, it means 9 days of prayers, in order to obtain graces by the action of worshipping, she was up and around. Even the reputed miracle worker of this time, a German prince, joined the assembly of prayers. What a story behind this crest! Because after this healing, she devoted her life to good works. So, this crest definitely encrypts a powerful memory between Hermine and the cathedral where we know she secretly went even during her confinement to bed in order to thank the Lord, the one who saved her, because she knew she will be saved thanks to her deep faith. The question is, did she give the panel precisely in reference to her recovery? Because sources say that she fled from her bed to the cathedral just after the report of the astounded doctor that said she was recovered. God, that is a story I like. Next to it, arms of Ludovic du Pavillon. He married the sister of the lady that we've just seen the case, Hermine de Bellot. So, as brother-in-law, it's maybe on purpose that they're nearby. Here is the Assumption of Mary. And here, St. Joseph. I think maybe the donor felt he had to give the panel of St. Joseph because the name of his wife, the wife of the donor, her name was Josephine. So, St. Joseph, with his main attribute, the staff with lily blossoms, it is from the story of a marvelous sign when a husband needed to be found for Mary. Each suitor was told to hold a dry stick. In all cases, nothing happened until it was the turn of Joseph. And he was an unlikely candidate, far older than Mary, but when he took the staff, lilies sprouted from the tip as a sign of purity and chasteness. Alright, this is the final lancet of the panels working together. St. John the Apostle. In Occident iconography, he is depicted as young and glabrous. It's to narrate the fact that at the time he met Christ, he was the youngest of all the apostles. But he has been old once. That's why he can be represented in some scenes as in the prime of life, with a beard, for instance in the scenes of the island of Patmos, where he wrote the Apocalypse, the fruits of the vision he had then. But what is he holding there? A cup with a dragon in it or a snake? To understand such attributes, let's refer to the Golden Legend, the main reference for hagiography. It tells us the following episode. After the ascension of Christ, St. John evangelized Greece. After making collapse the temple of Diana in Ephesus, he meets the high priest of the idols, Aristodemus. The latter promises to John to convert only if he drinks a poison and survives to it. To prove it's poison, 2 prisoners are forced to drink it and die immediately. Obviously, St. John drinks it and survives to it. He survived to that malevolent drink, but the priest, the high priest of the idols, refuses to believe it until John resurrects the corpses of the poisoned prisoners. Okay, right. Let's end the geographic purpose with the scene where St. Simon Stock appears, receiving the scapular from the hands of Virgin Mary. It is from a vision he had. Simon Stock was an English prior general known for his holy way of life. It couldn't be forgotten in this iconographic program because the chapel where the windows are displayed, Notre-Dame du Mont Carmel, it alludes to the Carmelite order of which Simon Stock is the most important character. This man died about 1265 in Bordeaux, and his relics remained there. The scapular given here belonged initially to the Carmelite movement. It is a sleeveless outer garment falling from the shoulders to the ankles. You know, scapular means shoulder in Latin. Scapular, scapular, right. It covers the front and the back, but not the size of a putte, and has an opening in the center for the head. The monks, they wear it as a sign of their vocation and devotion. And there is another type of scapular that can be worn by individuals who are not members of a monastic order. But compared to the original scapular, it is a much smaller object composed by two wool squares of cloth connected by two strings, so that there is one square that rests on your chest and the other on your back. The crest here, it shows the initials EJ, standing for Albert Émile Gignot. That was the first vicar general at this time. In the top register, we see arms of the cardinal and archbishop Ferdinand DONNET. He was the donor of the two main roses. And on the left, arms of Pope Pius IX. You get to know that papal arms are not a mark of donation here. You can see hundreds of them that still exist in iconographic programs of local churches. Consider that they show the reigning pope, contemporary of an artwork production. But never forget that in the same time, caring about representing papal arms, it expresses a political allegiance from the part of the archbishop of the town. And here, that was His Eminence, Cardinal Ferdinand DONNET. It shows his allegiance to the Holy Siege. And this position of being favorable to the Pope is called Ultramontanism. We have reached the end of this description. The video might be long, but necessary. I could have said many other things, but for the length of the video and for your comfort, I preferred to be synthetic. For the ones who want to know more, you can find the sources in the description below. I hope my comments satisfied your curiosity, and I invite you to watch these wonders with a fresh eye when you visit us in Bordeaux, the town where I live. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to enjoy your day. Bye.